So let's talk about eyes. I think we finally figured out what was going on with the eyes and why the proportion, even though you were following the proportions just right, they just didn't seem like they were coming out quite right. So I'll just draw a quick oval here, go around. And when we do our ovals and we get our shape just right and we put down where the eyes go, and then we mark out where we think about a fifth and a fifth and a fifth go, and then we get the head shape properly. The problem that you discovered that we figured out last week was that we were looking at the distance from here to here as being the whole distance for the whole eye and then filling it in, and finally realized that the problem is that whole width, is taking into account going from here, the very far reaches on this side, to the very far reaches on this side, and using that as our measurement, which makes it 1/5, 1/5, 1/5. The trouble is the white of the eye ends well before that mark. So the white ends back here. And we have this little part in here where the tear duct is, and it does have official names that, is it carbuncle, something like that. So those end, the white ends, and then there's that extra little part here that we have to put inside of our little tick mark. And then the eye over on this side, we end up with this thick lash line that goes beyond where the white is. So we would have measured back about to here as our width, total width of the eye, but the white actually ends back here. So even though if we would have made our eye tick marks here, the eye itself might only go from here to here. And then the rest are those extra little places. And that accounts for why the eyes always seemed like they were getting so big in the picture. Okay, and then these places, when you go to draw them, they're just really soft and vague. So we have the very white part, then one little shade darker for this little kind of a fleshy place in here, and then darker for the pupil as well. And then just to touch on eyelashes a little bit. In this particular picture, we really can't see any specific eyelashes, but we do see a very thick line here that represents where the eyelashes are. And for the most part, when we look at photographs, we really can't see individual lines. We can only see that thickness there. Then we have the lid line, then usually a pretty significant space depending on how deep the eye sockets are on each person, and then the eyebrow. Okay, so let's look at another person here. When we look at her eye, we can see the same thing. We would have measured from here to here as overall eye width, but the white doesn't start until all the way in there. So when we would have drawn this eye, if we would have used that whole shape as the white in the iris part of the eye, that would have been a mistake. Looking at lashes on this particular model, we can see that we can see some individual lashes. They don't extend past her lid line here, and we do end up still kind of with a thick dark line right here. And then back here, it still gets really dark and vague. We have the white of the eye ends here, and then we have this much space to kind of make I wouldn't say complete, it's not as dark as the pupil, but it's getting pretty dark, and then having some little lines in there will show that that's her lashes. And then looking at the other eye here, we can see that the shape comes down here almost like a fish, comes down and then back out again. And then here's a definite edge to her white of her eye, but look how much her eye extends past there. And then again, we have the eye, the thickness of the lash area, the lid, then a significant space, and then the brow. Okay, we'll look at one or two more, and then we'll make this a real quick video. Okay, same here with, she has a little bit deeper eye sockets. You can kind of tell because of the shadowing that we can see. But again, we would have measured from here to here for the overall width, and then the white starts way in here, so we have this long pointy shape. Now we don't want to really focus on it. We don't want it really super dark, because otherwise it would really catch our eye, and we don't want the attention to go there. We want all the attention to go here. So I would make this kind of a lighter value and then super light down here. Okay, and then back here again, it's kind of vague and dark where the lashes kind of all blend together, and it's kind of shadowy too. On this side, it's much more vague. We have the line comes down, but we can't actually see that the part where the tear duct is there. It just kind of ends, and the white does go right to the corner on this one, but over here we do have that vague area. And then again we have the eye, and then the lid line, and then quite a bit of space, and then the brow. And just take a look at one more. This one's a little bit different, just because he's got more of a hooded lid, so it comes down here, and it kind of makes a very definite shape right here, like this one is almost fish shape here. But look at this area in here. We have a very big area from the white all the way to the corner is quite large, and that would have to be shown. I don't think I would use a really heavy line. I'd make a very light line, and then kind of show right here where the corner is, and then that should be enough to show that that's where the very corner of his eye is. Again, we kind of have, over on this side, we kind of have a little mix of lines. We have the hooded lid that comes down, the bottom lid comes over, and then this dark area here where I think some of his lashes show through, and then the white, and then the pupil, and then in here kind of a vague area. Sometimes when you look at a photograph and you're going to draw it, it's not really specific. It might be just kind of a vague dark area, so you just have to look at that and say, well, it looks kind of light and kind of dark and kind of mixed, and it's got a crisp line on that side, but it's kind of fuzzy on that side, and the white is right there, but it doesn't look very white, so we would make sure we would make that a shade darker, because whites aren't always pure white on both sides. Sometimes they're very different from one side to the other. In our brain, we want to say, oh, it's the white of the eye, so it's white, but value-wise, they don't always show up as pure white. Okay, and again, here's the lid line is under there, but we still have some space before we get to the eyebrow. Oh, this one's a little bit shorter. Because of the hooded look of his eyebrow or his eyelid, we don't have that much room space between the brow and the eye, the top of the eye, and the brow and the eyebrow. Okay, glad we solved that mystery. It makes it much more logical of why you were getting the right proportions, but the eyes just always seemed extremely big, is because we weren't taking into account these two places on each side where there's more vague marks where the tear duct is, and the outside where there's more eyelash kind of shadiness. So, okay, hope that helps, and good work this week. Nicely done.